Hello, my name's Elise Lonsdale. On the 2nd of July 2016, the Australian public went to the polls to elect its 45th Parliament. This was a slightly unusual election in the respect that we had to elect a full Senate, including a full House of Representatives, rather than electing half a Senate. Currently, at the time of recording, it is still not known who will form government, as there are still a number of undecided seats in the lower house and a number of seats to be decided in the Senate. In fact, the Australian Senate will have many more independents and crossbenchers than the Senate that it replaced. There are 150 members of the lower house, the House of Representatives, and 76 members of the Senate. In this speech, entitled Governless, because at the time of recording we still don't know who will form our government, at the Makino Magic Club here in New Zealand, I gave a presentation to meet the objectives of speech number 7 of the Competent Communication Manual. This is a speech that required research and to know my topic. Ladies and gentlemen, Elise Lonsdale, Governless. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and guests. As you're aware, I'm an Australian and I'm looking for a government. If anyone can help me. What happened on the weekend? Well, like in New Zealand, we're a liberal democracy that operates under a constitutional monarchy. In layman's terms, that simply means we have elections, as you do here in New Zealand. Nothing strange about that. That's where all the people out there get to decide who governs in here. Nothing strange about that. But Australia is a federation of 6 former self-governing colonies. There were meant to be another 2. Does anyone know what one of those other 2 may have been? New Zealand, who opted out when they were invited, and that's a story for another time. The 6 self-governing colonies later became states, sovereign states, with their own smaller systems of government. The Australian parliamentary system has 2 houses of parliament. The House of Representatives, like yours, and the Senate, or the upper house, which is analogous to the British House of Lords. As in most Westminster systems, the lower government is formed in the lower house, the House of Commons, or the House of Representatives, which traditionally has a green theme to signify the grass or the green of the English common. Whereas the upper house, where government isn't formed, the House of Lords, for example, that are appointed, signify their authority by the colour red. Similarly with the Australian Senate, the upper house is also themed red. And interestingly enough, our upper house is one of the most powerful upper houses in the world. It can actually do things the British House of Lords cannot. Every bill that goes through the Australian Parliament has to pass both houses of the Parliament, including defence and appropriation bills. Which means if the Senate blocks or defers those appropriation bills, the government is starved of funds, which is what caused the Constitutional Crisis that we had in 1975. So how do we elect these people? Under normal conditions, we have a Senate, a House of Representatives election and a half Senate election. That means all of the 150 members of the House of Representatives, each with a constituency of anywhere between 85,000 and 95,000 people, are re-elected. The writs are issued and they are re-elected at the polls. At that same time, half of the Senate is re-elected. Now there's 150 members of the lower house where government is formed, and half that number, 76 members of the Senate. Half of those senators are re-elected every 3 years. So the life of a senator is 2 terms of that of a member of the House of Representatives. There are some exceptions to this rule, as what happened recently. Because of a seemingly or unworkable Senate, the government of the day, led by Malcolm Turnbull, the Australian Prime Minister, called what's referred to as a double dissolution, which means he advised the Governor-General to dissolve both houses of the Australian Parliament, which means everybody's out. All out, doesn't matter. If you were elected, if you're halfway through your term as a senator, bad luck, buddy, you are out as well. So which means we're not just electing the 150 members of the lower house, where government is formed, we're also, as Australians, re-electing the 76 members of the Australian Senate. Now, like the New Zealand system, the House of Representatives is elected by popular vote, constituents, or proportional representation. Doesn't matter what state you're in, where you're from, you elect your Member of Parliament who serves. We don't have an MMP system, so we don't have list members that can sail in just because they can just sail in. They are all elected by the constituency. Our forefathers saw that this could be a problem in the House of the Review. The Senate is the House of Review. So what would happen if the House of Review was also elected that way? Well, Sydney and Melbourne being the 2 popular cities, Victoria and New South Wales being the 2 popular states, would get to rule. There'd be no looking in from South Australia, Western Australia, Tasmania or Queensland. So they devised a cunning plan. And that is, the senators are actually elected by the states as a whole. And each state sends 12 senators. And because it's a half-Senate election, each state gets to re-elect 6 of those senators every time the House of Representatives goes out. 6 times 12 is 72. Now, didn't you just hear me say there were 76 senators? Where do the other 4 come from? Well, that's easy, because Australia has 2 territories. The Northern Territory and the Australian Capital Territory. The Australian Capital Territory is a little bit of land seceded from New South Wales, where we built our capital, Canberra, the Bush capital. Each of those territories may elect 2 senators only. 72 plus 2 plus 2, I get 76. Half the number of members that are available from the House of Representatives. What's happened on the weekend is that there are a number of seats that are undecided in the House of Representatives where government is formed. Thus, we could end up with a system like you people in New Zealand. That is, a minority government, or a government is formed due to a coalition of parties and independents. In the Senate, however, it gets a lot more complex, whereupon we will have a number of major party people and an ever-increasing number, in actual fact more people who are representatives of smaller, minor or even micro parties, and quite a number more of independents. In other words, unfortunately, the problem that the government sought to rectify by causing this double dissolution and throwing out the entire Senate has, for them, unfortunately, backfired. Interesting times ahead in my country, the lucky country, if we can call it that. Madam Toastmaster.